And good morning, everybody. It is Wonderful Wednesday with Dale Turnbull. Now, Dale, I met you for the first time at Hypnothoughts Live this summer. And you, like me, are a Brit living in the USA.
Yes,
and
baby.
So yeah, we just got on straight away because it was like, it's always fun to meet another Brit. I don't know why that is, because in England it wasn't so fun.
So that's why we moved, right? It's like too many English.
Yeah, so we've come here and now it's like, oh, we speak the same language, huh? Anyway, Dale, you have this fabulous protocol, okay, metaphors of movement, and you did it on me, and I know you were doing it on lots of other people. It is so interesting. Do you know what, Dale? Take it away. Tell us about you, what you do.
Okay, cool. So I've got a background within NLP, hypnosis, all those fabulous things, but I think there's two different ways people get into coaching or therapy. You've got people who really like to help people, really like to impact others. And then you've got those who are on a journey of very much intrinsic self-development. They want to better themselves. Now, I find that people who better themselves are really good at bettering themselves, and there's like a transition to then work with others. And I was always in the other camp. I loved working with other people. I'm like, I could coach, fix, not that we need to fix people, but I could work with anybody all the time. Give me a problem, I'm going to jump right in. But I always struggled to work on myself. Now, a little while ago, I found metaphors of movement, and it literally blew my mind. Because what we're doing is we're talking directly to the unconscious of a person in the form of an image. We're essentially drawing out what's going on in someone's deep unconscious mind. And for me, I found this so refreshing because you don't need context, so it's content free, so you don't need to tell me what your problem is. Two, it's non-confrontational. I always struggled to look at myself because I was like, it's painful, right, sometimes. So for me, it took that pain away, but it gives me a real good insight. And I've used it with myself, I've used it with my clients, and I'm just so passionate about it. It's also fun. So if you like flexibility and options and you're a therapist who's like, okay, I want to expand my sort of skill set and my way I look at things, mind-blowing. So that's why I love it. That's why I'm passionate about it. And yeah, thank you for inviting me on today, Clara. It's going to be a fun chat.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, no, I love that. Content free. I'm all about content free, because to me, it's like when people keep embedding the story further and further, then they distort it. Yeah. And it just becomes like a mishmash of different things. So I agree. I love that. So and we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and it was because I asked the question, what kind of things do people come to you with? And so it was like, for me, when I see somebody, I like to give them a force field to protect them, because sometimes, yes, the past is past, and we can say deal with the past issues for people. Yet a lot of the time, sadly, they're in it still. They are still in that. And I myself use a force field to protect myself. So how would you use that within the work that you do?
Interesting. So slightly different context, but if you think about a force field, right, it's essentially a barrier. Mm-hmm. Now, depending on your type of force field, that would have different qualities and characteristics. So is it a force field that you can see out of? Highly likely. Is it something that stops people come in? Does it distort what people see of you? Does it distort what you see of other people? So these are potential considerations. So if you want to work with like that sort of force field, the qualities that force field would have could make a big difference. The way I look at things is, okay, I'm a problem-focused therapist as opposed to a solution-focused therapist. Now that might seem quite disconnected, but it's like, okay, I don't want to focus on getting you on one specific outcome. I want to focus on creating choice in a problem that you have. So I normally work with people with fears, phobias, anxieties, normally stuff people want to fix, because essentially it's a stuck place of mind. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. So I was talking to a guy, angry guy, like you could see him. He was pissed off at the world. Okay. Anyway, he was upset with everybody. And he's like, Dan, I've had it up to here. I just can't deal with it anymore. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm just sick of other people's shit. They keep giving me shit. And I'm like, okay, well, what's that whole thing like? And he's like, well, it's just shit. And I'm like, well, what's that like? And he's like, well, everyone's giving me their shit. I'm like, okay. So essentially you're standing there and he's like, and yeah, everybody's all around me and they're giving me shit. I'm like, okay. So they've got these people, they've got their little hands with their little lovely poos coming towards you. Yeah. And what you're standing on? He's like, well, I'm on a big pile of shit. I'm like, well, that situation must stink. He's like, yeah, it does. And it smells. It's a pretty disgusting place to be in. So this is what it was like for him. So he was going around experiencing everybody coming to him and giving him this shit.
Yeah.
Pretty disgusting, right? I'm sure you can imagine. I mean, if that was you, it'd be pretty revolting.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's just standing there.
Okay.
The position he's got allows him to look down on those around him. He looks down on other people's shit. But he's elevated himself, so he's put him in a place where he's up there. Now, I've never carried shit to people myself, but I would probably look for a place to put my shit, and that seems like a pretty convenient place. So he's almost created a support and understanding for this, which essentially can be fueled by other people's shit. They can quite easily contribute it because it's the same thing. But oh wait, he's maintaining his position.
Oh, and he has to be right. So he's maintaining, and yeah. And it's
he doesn't necessarily have to be right. I mean, for these people, he's right. For those people, they're left to one side. This is the interesting thing. We can explore the whole of this environment. But ultimately, this person has put themselves up in the world. And we know from life and society that up is good.
Yeah.
Heaven, going up in the world, up in the career ladder. Down is bad, going to hell, the depths, getting demoted, stuff like that, right? So for him to come down, it might be a bit of a disappointment, but that's the only way he'd get out of this shitty situation he's in, by taking steps and actually coming down and being a bit more grounded and down to earth.
Yeah, he's got to get out of his own way. But it's interesting. That's what I meant. He's got to be right. So he's got to stay in that place. I love that. That's so interesting. And I know someone just like that.
But what's interesting is we talk about this stuff all the time, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the expression, I'm hitting my head against a brick wall?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's favourite, I'm hitting my head against a brick wall.
Yes.
Is this question, that person who's hitting their head against a brick wall, Claudia, are they motivated?
To hit their head against the brick wall, they are.
Yeah, they're doing something. So if I say, I'm hitting my head against a brick wall, they're literally going boom, boom. So they're putting effort in. So if I'm to tell that person, well, you just need to try harder. You, I'm sorry, I'm putting the effort in, right?
Yeah.
This person is trying to progress. They're trying to move forward.
Yeah, but they can't.
But they can't. They can't because there's a wall in the way.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is walls in metaphor represent what we can't do, what we're unable to do. They're essentially rules. I can't move forward. So if someone says I can't move forward, there's something in their way.
Yeah. And that's a belief system.
Few different ways you could deal with this. How would you deal with this, Claudia?
How would I deal with it?
You can't do something. What'd you do?
I sit and think about it.
Okay, so you could sit and think about it. Some people are a bit more introspective. They like getting to the root cause. They like to understand why. They go to the bottom, the root cause, the foundations. Where's this thing come from? Some people decide to get over it. Now, depending on how high the wall is, that could be a bit of a problem. Tony Robbins' favourites, they like to break through, go through the rule. But if you break through something, sometimes there's consequences, you know?
I see, yeah.
But also, I mean, my favourite is you just avoid it. Now, we all have these strategies in life. And this demonstrates how we problem solve most of the time. Now, this person, it's not necessarily that the point is they're trying to move forward. They can't see a way forward. They can't see what they want. They can't see where they're going. But maybe they need to change their direction. Because sometimes we have to take steps in the right direction. Sometimes we need to explore what's left. And sometimes we need to take a step back. Because right now, if this wall is infinitely thick, they're just going to get a huge frigging headache every time they try and progress.
Yeah, they are literally banging their head. Yeah, no, personally, that's why I like to use our meditations to like sit and think about it, to decide whether it is to get to the root of the issue or just get over it. As you say, let it go.
Yeah.
What do you mean by the avoid? What's the benefit of avoiding it?
Oh, you don't have to deal with it. It's like, you've got to do this.
Still there.
You just don't do it. But if we think about this, right, there are certain pros and cons to this. If we're digging deep, I mean, it's going to be dirty most of the time if we're digging deep. And if you think, a lot of like self-development or spiritual work, I'm going to say, has got that effort. You've got to go through it. You've got to. It's got to. And to be fair, I hated this because it's heavy. Like, because you've got to carry that. But yeah, and not my preference, right? Now, breaking through something is about endurance. I actually talked to a woman that you know, great woman. I'm like, how do you deal with this? And she's like, well, I just float through it. Because for her, she just bypasses the rules. Someone says you can't do something, she doesn't hear that. She just floats right through it. And I'm like, that's fascinating, because she very much does that. But also, getting over something is about, you've got to elevate yourself, you've got to improve, you've got to grow to get over something like that. They all have pros and cons. And sometimes, like, we talk like sales. I've done a lot of corporate work historically, and it's like they always talk about, like, you've got to handle the objection. No, sometimes you can just ignore it altogether.
Yeah, it's all fascinating. I think I prefer to get over it, to be honest, for me, because this is why you have to have this conversation with people, because it's like, what is it for them? Because we're all different types of people.
Exactly.
So it's so yeah, but it's pretty cool. I mean, in my force field that I give people, I give them an opening so that they can breathe in good things and breathe out the crap. Because it's funny, I get a lot of clients, and you will as well, who just have this barrier around them. So again, another metaphor, this barrier, and they just protect, and they don't have relationships. They don't have relationships because they don't let people in. They don't let the good in.
Well, if we think about a barrier being a rule that says I can't, right? They can't let people in. Doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to, but there's this barrier that it's not just they can't penetrate, other people can't penetrate.
Yeah. Well, they don't know how. How do you penetrate through that wall?
Well, if we think about it, right, let's go to a slightly different. So, if we're to use your shield as an analogy, right? Let's imagine this person is, I'm going to say a box just for ease, right? Get a lot of these. I feel trapped in, I feel boxed in, I feel stuck, I feel imprisoned, I feel like I can't move.
Yeah.
And well, what's great, if you're a coach, therapist, or whatever, this is a level of language that we hear about all the time, but we never, like, oh, I just feel stuck, I just feel boxed in. This is where this is a relative representation. Everyone is unique and you elicit it uniquely. But I know that this has been a lifelong problem for this person. And the reason I know that is because they're in a container. Now, containers within metaphor represent the world into which we are born. Like, we don't choose our family, we don't choose our cultural structure. These are the cultural rules that we're born into that say we can't do certain things. And there's nothing inherently wrong with this. Because when we're a child, we need rules, we need structure, we need to be kept safe.
Boundaries, yeah.
But the trouble is, if you're outside of this in the real world, people can hurt you. Can't get hurt here.
That's right. I know.
I feel like I've been stabbed in the back, punched in the gut. It's like the day my heart got ripped out. If you're here, very difficult for those things to happen.
Can you? I know. And it is sad. That's why I make sure that if you've got a wall, and I give them an opening. So what do you do? Do you give them, do you give them a way out of their
for me,
page?
So yes and no. So the way this whole metaphorical stuff works is it's really about creating options and creating choice, which is similar to what you're suggesting with an opening and resources. But I don't suggest what they do. I do different things and I create different options. And there are a few interventions, for example, with that container. The issue with that person is they're stuck with the rules when they were younger, and they basically need to grow up and grow out of it. Now, it's not their fault that they're in that situation, but the point is they can. It depends. If it's a problem, then they're stuck. But think about it. If I get the person out of that container, there's a chance they will be hurt. There's a chance they may lack direction. They may make mistakes because they no longer have the safety of that environment. So it's pros and cons. I can get them out of it and make them feel good, but it's on the flip side. There are pros and cons to different things, and it's about exploring that with the client. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why, as I say, well, they've still got the force field, but it's just they can breathe in good things, but breathe out the bad if they choose their choice. So I think that's great. So what else can you come up with that is really good metaphors that you see a lot? What else?
So let's go for a different example. So you can use. So what I love about this is you don't need a kinesthetic, you don't need a feeling, you don't need someone to visualize. Yeah. This works within the proprioceptive system. So it's all about like balance and equilibrium. So if I can't visualize, well, what's that like? So you can, if you struggle to get someone to visualize, this bypasses that channel completely.
That's brilliant, because there's a lot of people who can't visualize. I'm not a great visualizer. I have very visual dreams, but I can't visualize. So tell me more about this, because we've got a lot of people like this, and it's very useful for people.
Well, it's like so someone might say, "Oh, I can't visualize." I'm like, "Well, what's the sense of what's there?" Mm-hmm. And to be fair, it's a bit of a challenge because I'm asking for different information. But what I love about this is you can use it on anything. Because what it does is it essentially gives you a map of what your unconscious is talking about. I'll give you an example. So I do this on myself. I've never really done stuff on myself. But what I've been doing is every day I draw like a little metaphor. So that was my whole life. I've recently started a new book. So that was my whole life.
Yeah.
You got me, my wife, my child, and some natural aspects. That's what the environment's like. The next day I did, what's my weight loss and fitness like? It's going a bit down the pan, to be honest. There's a nice metaphor for you. But essentially, I'm in a cave. I'm shackled behind, things like that. Mm. But what it allows me to do is it doesn't create a solution for my health and fitness. It does. I've got ones on my career as well and my business and where that's at. But it gives me a snapshot of what's going on in my unconscious. And it essentially translates unconscious understanding to conscious awareness. I'll show you a business example, actually. So I'm looking to do a little bit more corporate work. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in a stable. Yeah. Pretty much. In front of me is this huge metal contraption, this machine. There are stalls to my right. And there is, what's behind me? Oh, there's a tractor behind me. And then there's a farm out the side. So looking at this, okay, realistically, I'm looking forward to a machine. I'm looking forward to something that's quite creative, something that could really have a good process behind it. Business has processes. So I'm looking at something that could maybe run itself. Oh. Now, what's right for me at the moment are 3 stalls. So actually, what's right for me is to stall, because I've got a few business conversations to have, and that will change how I deal with this. Now, there's something that has drive in the background. It's got a bit of an engine. But what's interesting is I'm in an agricultural setting. Now, if you think about a growing business, okay, I'm sowing the seeds.
Okay.
Yeah, thinking of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So my environment that I've been in is about growth and growing things, and I'm looking forward to a machine. So what's in front of me is actually foreign to the environment that I'm in. So I've been used to growing a business slowly over time, but what's in front of me is a machine. The questions I have for myself around that are, well, what is the machine actually used for? Does anyone want it? What does it do?
So this literally does make you think outside the box.
Yeah.
Makes you think again, and just brings you, I suppose, some clarity to what is you need, you want. Want.
And you can do on anything. Let's just say you have a certain emotion, like, what was that about? Or like, I did one thing where I have a certain way of, and I know you do a lot of work with children, and my wife's pretty good. I mean, my stepson, I'm getting there. But there was a specific moment when he wasn't doing, and I felt like, well, that feels a bit like my dad. Like, and I felt like I had no options, right? I had to react a certain way. And I'm like, where does this come from? I think it comes from my parents. But I drew it out, and it was pretty much it was pretty much this, but my stepson was there. So I look down to my stepson in that context. I make myself bigger than my stepson in that context. But realistically, because I have these rules around me, I have no other choice. That's how I have to react in that situation. So I deal with that and I grow up and grow out of that. So I no longer have these constraints. And now I can interact differently.
So you can get out of the box now and do it differently. You can
exactly. So it allows me to look at anything I want to. So you can do it on huge chunks of life. You can do it on very specific contexts, and it allows you to get understanding. And but also it's great for your clients, especially more challenging clients that you've tried lots of different things with, or clients who know how it's supposed to go, because it's a very different way of working.
It is. I love it. I love it. I have somebody. I challenge him a lot, and it's like we're doing more life coaching now, our sessions, and it's and he loves the fact that I do ask those difficult questions and make. But this, I love it. I absolutely think that's incredible. And what I love, Dale, is that you've been vulnerable there, and you've shown that this is real life, and that you're willing to self-reflect and think, oh, how could I have done that better?
And this was always the challenge for me. Like, my wife was like, "Oh, do you want to work on yourself?" But I'm like, "Nah, I'm fine." And to be fair, she's still more of an avid worker. But I do a metaphor every day, every other day on myself, on specific contexts. But for me, the biggest barrier was, it was painful, it was awkward, it was shameful. It, like, to look at yourself and work on yourself. I mean, it takes cojones, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And this way of doing stuff, I find, is so non-confrontational. When you look at it, when you go through it, you're like, fuck. But before that, it's very non-confrontational. So it's an easy way to start working on yourself in a really quite profound way. Because this is metaphorical and it's also from the unconscious, it also works at a very high chunk level neurologically. So you can work on broader contexts of life quite effectively and efficiently as well.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great tool for any therapist, any hypnotist, anybody who works with people to have in their toolbox. I really do. I think
one of the things I'm trying to do, because I mean, this has been out there for a fair few years. A guy called Andrew Austin created this in the UK, and there's a couple of trainers in the US, but I'm really looking to get it out there. So I'm also offering like free 30-minute demonstrations for people who are a little bit curious, a little bit interested. I'll make sure you've got the link, because for me, it's great talking about it and you can see it, but I'm always about first-hand experience, so you really get a sense of what it's like. So I'll chuck that over to you if you like as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll make sure we get all those links. So we've gone over time here, and well, maybe we'll have to do another one, because this is fascinating stuff, and I'll probably talk to you forever. So goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful day. It's goodbye from me, Claudia Rickard, and it's goodbye from.
Thanks for watching, Dale. Ciao.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.